Micro, small and medium enterprises remain the backbone of Nigeria's economy, supporting over 200 million people, contributing 48% to national GDP and serving as a major source of employment. However, their growth is severely constrained by limited access to finance, with over 50% relying solely on personal savings and a staggering 13 trillion naira gap restricting expansion and productivity. Regional imbalances persist as businesses in the southwest record greater access to credit than their northern counterparts. We have now joining us Yinka Awosanya, the head of research, Intelpoint. It's a pleasure to have you in the studio.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I mean, a 13 trillion naira credit gap.
Huge.
That is a humongous number. Just how much has it affected the MSME space, and what is the cause of this gap?
Definitely, it's a whole lot. So when you have an industry that is whose major the major contributors to the GDP is SME, but then the funding that are going to them, it's very low. So you are saying 13 million naira. So 2022, the CBN released their figures of the loan from central bank, from commercial banks that went to the private sector. MSMEs accounted for less than 1%. For less than 1%, I mean 0.8% there. It's very low. So it's like that gap, it's there. So it's not led for the relevant authority and stakeholders then say, okay, yes, we need to do the right thing.
I think the question now is, who is the relevant authority, right? Who is going to come up with the are the banks or the private sector expected to take the initiatives on their own, or is the government expected to come up with the policy?
So it's going to be both ways. So you have the banks, the commercial banks, the microfinance banks, like every other banks that are targeted at these guys. And then on the other side, you have the the Central Bank of Nigeria. So it's tricky because the Central Bank of Nigeria doesn't have a cap to how much. There's only the debt to liquidity ratio. So there's no cap on, say, okay, yes, commercial banks in Nigeria should allocate a certain percentage of their credit to MSME. So maybe going that route might then, okay, yes, say if a central bank is saying, okay, commercial banks, at least not less than 5% or 10% of your credit should go to these people. That limits, that increase the credit that is going to these people, and then it's a case of, yes, they have a larger project to go with. So, yeah.
And, looking at what's happening there, let's come to the division, right? Especially we're seeing the Southwest, yes, I'm in the Southwest at the moment, getting more of that minute percentage of loans that MSMEs are getting than the North. Why are we seeing that divide?
First, so you have the Southwest, you have Lagos, the South, which is the commercial capital. So, and you have other states in the region as well that are really pulling their weight as well. So, and then, yes, it's easy to say, yes, they should get the large loan. And for the North, so you look at the North, so research shows that states in the North, you have more states in the North that are doing less than, say, less than 100,000 naira on average revenue for their MSMEs, and the South, no states in the South are doing that. So the fact that the states in the South are doing above 100K in monthly revenue shows, the average revenue shows that, yes, they should get the higher share of it.
And while we may want to completely blame the lack of a proper credit policy from the government side or banks, I wouldn't say it's favoritism because they're probably looking at the risk. What role do MSMEs need to play, right, in making themselves perhaps more attractive, right, and position themselves for some of these loans?
Yeah, so just a few things. So first would be saying that, yes, they are prepared to, you are on an SME, you are not on with your personal bank accounts that it gets for you to access loan, they ask for your credit history or your book or what you have in your book so far, and you are presenting your bank account instead of presenting, okay, this is what the company has made, and you are presenting the company account. So this is the money that has come in, not the money that has come into the bank account. So there's that. There's also the part of, yes, aside keeping books, also putting strategy in place to make sure that your things are being run. You are not taking money from the company just because you are the founder. You are paying yourself appropriately. You know, like everything is in place. And it gets, okay, you are approaching the bank to say, yes, I need a loan. It asks you to present, and you present all your books, and they are in order. Your CAC is in order. You're paying your taxes. You're doing all that. So it makes it easier to say, yes, you approach a bank, and they check your record and see that, yes, in terms of regulatory, you are compliant. In terms of your finances, it's also in order. So that helps them at the end of the day.
And also, speaking of matters of inclusion, we've also gone through the data, and we see that females, we face a lot more barriers to access. Yes, we face a lot more barriers to accessing these loans as well. Why?
Okay. First, research shows that we have more male that in the MSME space than female. So there is that. So I believe that plays a role in saying, yes, you have lesser of them accessing credit. Surprisingly, despite the fact that you have fewer female in the MSME market, space, their monthly average revenue is way higher than that of their male counterparts. Okay. So they are making more money on a monthly basis than their male counterparts. Yes, they might not get the necessary support, but they are still making do with what they have to make more money than what their male counterpart is making.
And obviously for MSMEs, the goal would be typically to scale, to expand, right? And perhaps become a full-blown company, maybe even go around to being listed on the NGX. But for them to scale, we often find that they have to tap into their personal savings or even request for loans for family. How can we build a system around that? What financial tools can we build around that to help them?
So I've kind of touched on this earlier when I said having their books in the right order. So when your books in the right order, you're approaching an investor and I say, yes, this is what you've done over the years. But then it's still a case of access. So about 51% of MSMEs rely on their personal savings for expand or to set up, followed by friends and family, because these are the easy ones to access. I'm starting a business. The first thing I'm thinking is how much have I saved up over the years to do this, and then after that I'm approaching friends and family. Hi, I'm doing this. How would you like to help? Whether they are helping in a case of, yes, I'm giving you and then you are refunding, or just giving as grant and you're not expected to pay back. But those ones are easy to access. If I'm going to go to a bank to say, yes, but I need this money, so I'll need to present some things. My record over the years, if it hasn't been great, definitely affect me in doing that. Despite the fact that the record might not be great, but then you are making effort to make sure that the things are in the right order with the business. But then it's still bother around, yes, having books in order for those accessing the bank. But then the first point of call is still personal savings as well as our friends and family. Because they're easy to access, and it's basically free. You're not paying interest on them.
Yeah, it may not be the ideal, but yes, I get when you don't have the right structures in place, you have to fall back to those options. And speaking about structures, infrastructure, power, how is that affecting MSMEs, especially their operation costs? It has gone up astronomically in the last couple of years. How are they navigating this, and how can they navigate this? Is there an option of renewables? What are their options?
Navigating it is tricky because, yes, you mentioned renewable, but then you look at renewable and you say solar, for instance, the initial outlay, what they are going to spend to set up that solar energy in the first place, it is huge. Then these people are already thinking of how to raise money for their business. And then you are not having to say, okay, yes, they have to raise money to set up the renewable energy, what they are using, what they're going to use to run the business. So it's tricky. Because at the end of it, it's going to be a case of making do what you have. Because you can say, yes, they can go renewable route. But in the last couple of years that we've had, that the authority has had to increase tariff, we've had public outcry. And it's because it's not... for them, it doesn't make sense. But for the increase, they're saying, yes, we need to be in line with what's currently happening in the economy. But for the businesses, it doesn't make sense for them. This is why at every point in time, you hear, oh, yes, it's not possible, we are not getting the lights, why should we be paying for it? But then, should we not say we should go renewable? Yes, we can go renewable. Then that means the government has to put some sort of support in place for it to be
subsidy. I hear subsidy when you say support in place.
For it to be for it to be accessible by this guy, because you're talking a couple of millions of naira for the initial setup, and then it depends on the magnitude or on the level of the setup. If you're doing 1 or 2 kVA, but you need higher than that, definitely you need a higher initial outlay.
And to talk about how they're navigating, sometimes, you know, in the evenings you drive around, even Admiralty, one of the popular MSME ways, you see that sometimes some of them turn off their generator until they have a customer within their van. They turn on the, so it's interesting to see how MSMEs are navigating this whole infrastructure and power situation. Yinka Awosanya, the head of research, Intelpoint, stay with us. We're going on a break right now. We'll be back to continue the conversation. Nigeria's 13 trillion naira credit gap continues to limit MSME growth. What can be done? How can MSMEs navigate this? And what does the government and private sector need to do to intervene in this situation? Yinka Awosanya, the head of research, Intelpoint, is still with us in the studio. Thank you for staying with us. And I mean, we've spoken a bit about what we need the government to do, but in terms of interventions, right, aside from coming up with a credit policy, a percentage that you will mandate banks to give to MSMEs, what sort of interventions, other interventions, do we need to see them bring forward to support MSMEs and them scaling?
Over the years, we've had cases whereby the state governments across Nigeria, as well as the federal government, are partnering with both local and foreign organizations to say, okay, yes, we are partnering with you to support our MSMEs and the like. So it will be a case of monitoring those initiatives to say, are they really giving us what we need to say, okay, yes, maybe we need to reiterate what we are doing, or we need to rejig it, stuff like that, to make sure that, yes, these initiatives are not just being announced and then the implementation is not there. So monitoring those, yes, a couple of months ago, your state government, for instance, announced partnering with for a 1 billion naira MSME funds. Ogun State has also done similar things, like a couple of other states also. Even Kaduna did one recently. So it's a case of, yes, these things are being announced. It's a case of, okay, the SMEs follow through to say, yes, this thing that you promised us, so what's the update on it and stuff like that. So definitely those. But the key is, aside the money, there's also the education. So you need to teach these SMEs and say, okay, yes, these are the ways to do, these are the things to do in presenting themselves for investment, doing the right thing, putting their books in order, putting their operations in order, helping them achieve operational efficiency and all that. That, at the end of the day, we also make sure that, yes, they achieve their goal in beyond contributing to the economy. Also make sure that, yes, they also be a great contributor to their own development and upliftment as well.
Yeah, so education, because a large percentage of them are actually informal, so they do need that. And as you have pointed out, that support should come from the subnationals, not directly from the top, because they're closer to the people. Now let's talk about the success rate of most of these MSMEs. We hear stories, in spite of their huge contribution to GDP, a lot of them don't survive long. They don't last long, right? 1, 2 years. I know there's a particular data point on that I'm struggling to pull up right now, but they don't last for long, right? How do we ensure that consistency and growth, right? Because if you don't grow after a period of time, you know, shut down.
So for that, it's not peculiar to MSMEs. So globally, businesses, so not about, I think it's about 40% doesn't make the first 10 years of their establishment, and then as you keep increasing the years, the number is dropping. The number is dropping by 20. The number has dropped by 50. The number has dropped by 100. The number has dropped. So that's that. But then for MSME, so you have this, you have people running business because just limiting in what they are running. I'm just running the business. It's a one-man business. I'm just running. So if anything happens to me, the business also suffers. So there's no like a succession plan and stuff like that in that, and then we are not running it as a proper business. MSMEs are being run as a just me and the business. Me and the business use, I see people use, for instance, use your personal phone number, use their personal bank account and all that. So all those contribute to how long it will take, because there is no record to say, yes, how did I do this year, to compare how I did it, or to kind of like project what next year will look like and prepare for it. So there's no stuff like that.
Yeah, it sounds like the informal nature of these SMEs
Exactly.
is also the sword in their backs. So, I mean, in spite of all these challenges, the credit gap, infrastructure gap, and many other gaps, people still remain optimistic about the role the MSMEs will play in their contribution to GDP. What do you think is driving this optimism?
Research shows that for 2025, some businesses said, oh yes, 2025 looks a little bit there, but then they are optimistic about, say, 2020, what will happen the following year, and the case of years, or looking at cutting down things that will make the year better. Say, businesses that want to add 1 or 2 new products to what they are currently offering, which makes which increase their own bottom line. Also have others that are saying, okay, yes, achieving operational efficiency, reducing costs, because yes, our price has gone up in the last 2 years, so reducing costs to make sure that yes, they meet. So and doing this, the ability to prepare them into the new year.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Yinka Awosanya, the head of research Intelpoint. It's been a pleasure getting your perspective.